Fusion Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
Wonderful welcome to you on this e-learning platform. This is Fusion Mobile e-learning, and I am Sherif Alaito, your civic education tutor, and I am going to be taking us through democracy and national development today, under which we shall be considering capitalist democracy, the characteristics of capitalist democracy, the advantages and the disadvantages of capitalist democracy, and then we are going to be talking about the competition for power among political parties in a capitalist democracy setting. First, let's take a look into the meaning of capitalist democracy. In earlier lessons, we described democracy as the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is the government through elected representatives. In this lesson, we shall see another form of democracy, which is called capitalist democracy. There are two main democratic practices world over. These two practices fit into the major economic systems in the world, namely socialism and then capitalism. A given political system explains the prevailing economic system in a given state. Socialist and capitalist ideology are two opposing systems. An ideology is a set of beliefs, especially the political beliefs, of which people, political parties, or countries base their actions. Socialism and its brand of democracy is practiced in China, Cuba, Russia, Dominican Republic, and other countries in Europe called Eastern Bloc. Here, there is no individual ownership of means of production, distribution, and property. The government owns means of production and runs a one-party system. What we are saying in essence is that in socialism system, which is practiced in countries like China, Cuba, Russia, Dominican Republic, and some other countries in Europe, there is no individual ownership of the means of production. What are those means of production? Land and other resources. No individual ownership of this means of production. Every goal, every work, every means of production is geared towards the generality of the state. The government owns and controls the ownership of means of production, distribution, and property. And then, in such states, they are governed with just in a one-party system. Unlike in capitalism, which is the opposite of socialism, where the individuals are allowed to own means of production and properties, and the market forces of demand and supply. They determine the price of goods and services as well. In capitalism, it's like, okay, here, this is like a restricted system whereby the government controls, but in capitalism, individuals have the liberty to control. It is a kind of liberal system where individuals have the liberty to control. This ideology comes from Western Europe, championed by Great Britain, the United States of America, Japan, Germany, and indeed, almost 2/3 of the world, including Nigeria, practice capitalism. In capitalist democracy, a political, economic, and social system based on tripartite arrangement of a market-based economy based on the democratic polity, economic incentives through free market, and a liberal moral cultural system which encourages pluralism. This means that capitalist democracy has a tripartite arrangement or system of economic, social, and political framework that work under a democratic society or setting. Tripartite. What do you mean by this? It is like a three type, which means, okay, the word triangle, tripartite. You can see tri, you can see part, which means 3 types. So, the setting under capitalism, majorly, is a free range of social, economic, and political system. All of these come together to make the capitalist democracy. A democratic society is where government is run by elected representatives. It is government based on the rule of the majority. This is the political aspect of capitalist democracy. That is, people should have the right to vote and be voted for under democracy. This makes one of the 3 parts or 3 types of the basis with which capitalist democracy is formed. It has a market-based economy, which is based on economic incentives through free market. This means that the prices of goods and services are purely determined by the market forces of demand and supply, and not by the government or other bodies. That is, nobody is regulating the economy. Nobody is regulating the prices of goods. Nobody is saying this is how much you are going to be rendering these services. Nobody is saying, no, if you are able to sew a cloth, get materials and sew a cloth, you must sell it within this range, nothing more. No, no, no. It is a free market. I can decide to make this cap and sell it for 2,000 naira. While somebody else may wake up and say, okay, if I make this kind of cap, me, I'm going to sell it 10,000 naira. Nobody is going to arrest you for it. There is liberty to determine the price based on demand and supply. In its mere form, a market economy is an economy where government does not subsidize anything, does not give incentives, and no form of restriction. It is a free market where people are free to import and export and make profits without restrictions, such as license quota, import license, and so on. Capitalist democracy is also based on a moral cultural system, which encourages pluralism. There is high regard for the value system of the nation, such as work ethics, do's and don'ts at the workplace, individual initiative, people taking their own decisions, honesty and respect for private property. These values are taught and supported by the mediating institutions such as the family, church, and other voluntary associations. It also works with the system of natural liberty, which means people are free to form so many voluntary associations such as labor unions, as we have the NUT, the Nigerian Union of Teachers, the NUJ, the Nigerian Union of Journalists, the NMA, the Nigerian Medical Association, and so many other labor organizations under the Trade Union Congress and the Nigerian Labour Congress. The moral cultural system encourages pluralism, which recognizes that individuals have different opinions and interests, and allows them to associate freely, form many groups, associations, and political parties in order to achieve their interests. These multiple groups created by pluralism help to check government in power. Capitalist democracy is an amalgamation of 3 systems. 1. An economy based predominantly on free market and economic incentives. 2. Democratic polity. 3. A moral cultural system which encourages pluralism. That moral cultural system is the social part of the tripartite. The free market and economic incentives is the economic part, while the democratic polity is the political part of the tripartite, which goes on to form the principles of capitalist democracy. Now, that brings us to the fact that capitalist democracy could equally be seen as a political and economic practice, where means of production, distribution, and acquisition of wealth and productive forces are left in the hands of well-to-do people. It is a type of democracy where the individuals are fully allowed to contest and own the means of production. An economic theory that is based on the principle of free enterprise of the people, for the people, and by the people. Now, let's talk about the characteristics of capitalist democracy. It has some distinct qualities or features which distinguish it from socialist democracy. Most capitalist democracies of the world have the following features. 1. Constitutional government. One is constitutional government. That is, the activities of the government will be based on the Constitution. The government is not according to the will of the rulers, but according to what the Constitution says. And there is strict adherence to the provisions of the Constitution. Then, majority rule. Majority rule. This type of system is by the rule of the majority, which implies that government should not take any decision that is against the desires of the majority of the country. Whatever the majority of the masses are saying is what the government has to imbibe. Then conservative. In capitalist democracy, changes are not acceptable, and if changes need to be made to society, they should be made gradually. The conservative government operates the policy of laissez-faire, which is a policy of non-interference, especially that government should not interfere in the working of the free market. Then we have pluralism. This means there is the existence of many groups and political parties. And in capitalist democracy, there is more than one political party which will offer the electorate alternative views from where they can make choices. The respect of the labor unions, religious unions, and other associations. Then there is the respect for rule of law. Rule of law. That is law, the law reigns supreme. And there is individualist as part of the characteristics of capitalist democracy. Individualist. Here, we say individuals are allowed to own property and do things according to their own initiatives. They are allowed to make profit and acquire wealth. Responsibility must be the responsibility of each individual citizen and not a collective thing. Then there is popular consultation. Popular consultation. Government should regularly make consultations with the people and find out policies the people would like to be adopted. Officials of government should not go ahead to make policies without due consultation with the people. Periodic elections is one other feature of capitalist democracy. Periodic elections. Of course, in Nigeria, every 4 years, we elect our representatives into State House of Assembly and the National House of Assembly. And of course, we vote for our president, we determine who our governor would be, we determine who our the chairman who are going to be ruling our local governments, and the councillors to represent us at the council level would be in every 4 years. There has to be independent judiciary. Independent judiciary. There should be non-interference in the activities of the independence. There should be non-interference in the activities of the judiciary, and it should not be controlled by the executive arm of government. This is to ensure that it is impartial and performs its roles and duties and functions without fear or favor of any person. This is important because electoral disputes are expected to be decided by fearless judges, during tribunals especially. And there has to be respect for fundamental human rights. There has to be respect for fundamental human rights. There is recognition for the civil rights such as freedom of speech, freedom of express, freedom of association, and so on and so forth. At the extreme right are the bourgeoisie, the haves or wealthy class. And at the extreme left are the peasants, the have-nots or poor class. And at the center or middle is the buffer or middle class, the proletariat or working class. These are the three major classes of people that exist in a capitalist democracy. We have the bourgeoisie, we have the proletariat, and we have the peasants. The bourgeoisie are the wealthy ones, such as the Dangotes, the Femi Otedolas, the Hoji Kalu, and so on. The proletariats are the middle class people who are, at least, could feed their family and are doing well. Perhaps they have a house, they own a car, they can easily move around, they can easily travel to wherever they want to go, they can eat, they can feed their families, they can take care of whatever they need to take care. But it's not that they have in excess. Why the peasants are those who are struggling to earn living. Most of these people are found in extremely rural areas. They are the classes of the peasant farmers and fishermen and so on and so forth. Traders on the roadside fall in this category as well. Of course, the system of capitalist democracy is market-driven. Participants market their labor, means of production, manufactured goods, services and ideas. Nothing is done for free. Every participant in the economic system is guided by profit motive. Every participant in the economic system is guided by profit motive. There is no selfless service. There is guaranteed freedom of choice. It encourages healthy competition. And these are the following are the advantages of capitalist democracy. It thrives on the doctrine of fundamental human rights. It promotes faster economy. It encourages meaningful initiatives and hard work. It guarantees maximum freedom of enterprise. It promotes healthy competition among consumers and owners of the means of production. It promotes faster economic development. Capitalist democracy creates room for effective use of abundant talents. It creates room for invention and innovation. It encourages specialization in skills and quality productivity. It is self-regulatory as it does not require remote control from the government. It encourages development at the pace and level of one's potentials and capabilities. The minimal interference of government in the economic process makes it to concentrate on good governance. There is no distraction for them. Quality policy making as an empire and in the provision of and distribution of public amenities. Of course, there are disadvantages for this capitalist democracy. This brand of democracy has been seriously criticized by notable socialist scholars who see socialist democracy as a better option. For them, capitalist democracy is deficient in many ways, which include 1. Capitalist democracy supports the emergence of few exploitative millionaires at the detriment of the majority who are relegated to the working class. And of course, if we see in Nigeria, there are so few millionaires, and those millionaires are extremely rich, and the social gap between the millionaires and the have-nots, those who do not have, is so wide and large. There is uncontrolled exploitation of the helpless and the poor. Frequent and recurring exploitation of the poor. The system tolerates inequitable distribution of income. For instance, imagine somebody who works or who is an appointee of the federal government earning millions of naira, while somebody who works and sweats earns in thousands. It encourages unhealthy rivalry. It allows inordinate amassing of wealth. Capitalist sole interest lies in profit making even at the expense of life. Another reason why this kind of democracy is criticized is because it leads to selective employment and unemployment, as capitalists are not under any mandate to employ all employable workforce. It promotes oligarchic form of government to enable them make policies that would protect the interests of the rich or bourgeoisie. It encourages inhumane treatment on fellow man. Capitalist democracy appears to be a self-functioning system with no apparent regulatory measures. Its multi-party system is a play to divide the poor and scatter them under different shades of ideologies so as to weaken them from forming a common front. This is called the principle of divide and rule. And of course, in capitalist democracy, there is a competition for power among political parties, and this competition is pursued through so many ways. We are going to be considering that very soon. But first, we have to take note that a political party is an organized group of people who share common political ideologies, beliefs, and interests, and who are seeking to win elections and control the power machinery of the people, of government. Of course, the PDPs, the APCs, the CPCs, the Labour parties, and so on and so forth fall under this category. They could be said to be a group publicly organized through constitutional backing and oftentimes registered with the objective of gaining political power in government. The unity and cohesion of a political party are brought about by party discipline, internal democracy, and party manifesto. These are the following methods of competing for power. One is recruitment of suitable and qualified candidates. During the election, political parties search for the best candidates who will appeal to the electorate. This candidate must be someone people are free to entrust their destinies with. Secondly, the candidate must also have the required academic qualification and should not be somebody who the electoral body, that is INEC, or the electorate will frown at for any reason. They must have pure antecedents, that is, good past, a good record from their activities from the past. Printing of posters, banners, and flyers during electioneering campaigns. Political parties will print banners, they will print flyers, they will print posters, and paste them all around places. They go nationwide, statewide, they go local governments wide to popularize the manifestos and programs they have to the people. They organize debates and conferences where ideologies would be debated, argued, and jostled. They share gift items to the people. For instance, in Ondo State, it was alleged that some set of people made the baked bread and they put label of a particular gubernatorial candidate behind it, and they were sharing it all around. In other climes, they share rice, they share vests, and so many other things. They do philanthropic gestures. Parties and politicians appeal to the electorate through philanthropic gestures. They outshine one another in church and civic activities. They offer scholarships to orphans, just like it is done by an aspirant for the governorship position in Oyo State, who offers scholarship to indigents of the state who are in tertiary institutions. This scholarship is given as part of support for their economic education support. They make electoral promises. They form party wings, such as the youth wing, the women wing, the youth leader and women leader rule or lead this kind of wings. They hold meetings at the ward level, at the unit level, at the local government level, at the state level, and even at the national level. Party agents, the electoral body, allows each political party that has candidates vying for elective votes to send party agents to every polling booth, especially during elections. Of course, there are negative methods of competing for political power by political parties. They train thugs and terrorist squads which can intimidate opponents who they see as threats to their electoral successes. They could beat them up, victimize them, intimidate them, and so on and so forth. Parties in power could condone of popular campaign grants and so prevent their opponents from making use of them if they see that the opponents are gaining more support. For instance, in 2014, it was alleged that Governor Aregbesola of Osun State locked the stadium against the PDP presidential aspirant, then President Goodluck Jonathan. He didn't allow him to make use of the Osogbo Township Stadium for his campaign. Of course, it has happened in Oyo State before, according to records, when the then governor, Adebayo Alao Akala, shot the Mako Town Hall against a presidential aspirant, General Muhammadu Buhari, from using the hall for his campaign. These ways are considered negative methods of competing for power by political parties. Propaganda: some parties may want to reduce the rising profile of their opponents, just as it happened in the United States of America. One of the candidates suffered so many honages, so many banters, libels, and this is not good for his image as he is contesting for a public office. The wrong use of electronic media. Although every party and candidates compete over the use and dominance of the radio, television, newspaper, and the internet to press on the electorate for their wise choice. This media often becomes forces of personality and image destruction. Governments empower them to use the state media to portray other candidates as not worthy of the electorate's votes. And of course, all of these are considered as negative methods of contesting for power by political parties. Now that we have discussed democracy and national development, under which we considered capitalist democracy, the characteristics of capitalist democracy, the advantages and disadvantages of capitalist democracy, competition for power among political parties, and the rest. We have come to the end of this lesson, and a question is popping right about now on your screen. I want you to carefully consider attempting the question and provide adequate answers to it. However, if you have difficulties or challenges answering the question, kindly rewind your videotape and take a look at the video once again.